Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. If you want to be a part of the show, I'm about to give you something you can pop off on right here. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. And stick with this show. If you got to leave in like the next 10 minutes or so, like you're about to get to wherever you're driving, you're going to want to come back and listen to the rest of this on the podcast. Because coming up in the next segment, I'm having Dr. Brian Ardis on. He is the guy, he's a doctor who wrote Moving Beyond the COVID-19 Lies, Restoring Health and Hope for Humanity. Now, he's been on the show before, and me and him are blood brothers in our review of what went down during COVID. It was all a fraud. It was all a lie. And so what we have now, not just his book, but Congress releases their final report on COVID. And aside from the election and maybe Donald Trump getting shot in the ear, this should be the biggest story of the year. So what? This should be the third biggest story of the year. It certainly should be one of the top headlines for today. And they haven't even mentioned it for 1 second on MSNBC. I've seen them mention it on Fox News since I've been sitting here for, 3 or so, 5 hours, whatever it is. But the report doesn't even sound real. It sounds like the James Parker fantasy Make-A-Wish of what I thought was true. The conspiracy theorist manual is what it sounds like. That's what it would have been called in 2020 and 2021. The whole thing's 520 pages. I didn't read the whole thing, but I did read the little summary in the front. And oh my God, it exonerates everything that you've thought and you've heard on this radio show. I mean, everything. They admit, number one, that the COVID-19 origin came from a lab leak. They admit that it happened from gain of function research, no matter what goofy definition you want to try and squeeze that into or out of. They admit the mask mandates did nothing. Of course, we already knew that from the Cochrane study, but now we have Congress having to admit it publicly. They admit that social distancing did nothing. It was based on nothing. There was no literature or studies or precedent for it. It was just something that was wholly made up by the powers that be as some sort of theatrical grooming for an emergency scenario. The lockdowns did nothing. Closing your kid's school did nothing. Preventing you from having your freedom to assemble and worship was all for nothing. Your constitutional rights were violated, all for nothing. And it doesn't stop there. The vaccine's worthless. They were wrong about the treatments for the vaccines. Remdesivir, not so great. Hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, great. I mean, it's almost too good to be true. And to forcefully try and implement these mandates on the American people, we now know all that wasn't based in science. It wasn't based, there was no studies backing it up. I mean, I can't get into the hearts and minds of these people. Either they recklessly did it or they actively were seeking to persecute their perceived political enemies. Because who was resisting and who was going along? Team Blue, they just couldn't be treaded hard enough. They couldn't be locked down hard enough or mandated hard enough or masked hard enough or vaxxed hard enough. It was Team Red fighting against it. And so when you see the reports about when the mandates came down and all these pilots lost their job and all these soldiers were kicked out of the military and all these teachers and professors were kicked out of academia and lost their careers, when even goobers like me in the media lost their job, because I'm not taking a stupid shot. It's just so I can go into your studio. No, I'll continue working from home. Well, this isn't a work from home position anymore. Well, what are you going to do about that? Cut me. All of us were persecuted probably for political reasons, if not just cold-hearted indifference. But remember, the biggest reason this affects all of us, and this is such a big deal, is this COVID response. When they turn around and they printed $6 trillion new dollars, it's the primary reason your grocery bills went up 30% in the last 4 years. Because we didn't just start with the one package and then another package, and then by the time the vaccine came around, well, we can stop at the package. Oh, no, they just kept them coming. And when the COVID ran out, they came out with the Inflation Reduction Act, which was just another $1 trillion in extra printed money. So the reason why you can't make ends meet, the reason why you don't have any money left over at the end of the month, the biggest chunk of blame for the inflation goes to the response from COVID. The COVID response is the reason 25% of independently owned restaurants, the mom and pops where they just have one location and it's like the grandpa in the kitchen and grandma's working the cash register, 25% of those went out of business. And it's not like, oh, well, I lost a place where I could go get a burger. No, you lost someone's livelihood, someone's life's work, someone's legacy. They may have been building that up to pass along to their kids. This may have been what put their kids through college or their grandkids through college. They probably lost their retirement trying to save this thing. You destroyed these people. The COVID response is the reason for hundreds of thousands of suicides. The COVID response derailed the education of millions of children. Now, my kids are going to be okay. Your kids are going to be okay. But there's millions of kids that are in the margin, just barely teetering, hanging on, and this pushed them off, never to recover again. The COVID response is the reason millions of families lost their job, lost their career, lost their savings, their retirement, lost their house, lost their business. Election laws were perverted beyond any reasonable recognition, and an election was stolen under the fog of these lies. All those people that got destroyed, pilots, soldiers, nurses, doctors, teachers, all unfairly destroyed for these lies. And now it's all coming out. And this isn't a bigger story. I think it's a pretty big story to hear everything and look, everything you were hearing from people like me on stations like WBAP, where we were the lone dissenting voice in a sea of robots buying into the lie. We've all been proven right over the proven lies from NPR, the people on TV, CNN, most politicians, academics, medical experts, medical journals, TV doctors, UN experts, WHO, all of them, celebrities, actors, musicians, they were all telling you lies. We were right. They were wrong. I was right. They were wrong. You listening to me, you listening to your drunk uncle doing his own research on Facebook. He was smarter than the UN. The lab leak was a lie. It wasn't gain of function research. Lie. Masking helps. Lie. Vaccine helps. Lie. Social distancing helps. Lie. All the spending based on lies. What are we going to do about that? Well, listen, I have some receipts. I'm going to play you some audio from the ghost of COVID past. So now that you know the truth, now that you know that Fauci knows, we're going to go back and revisit what he said in front of Congress in 2020 and 2021. We're going to hear what NPR was telling you about the COVID lab leak in 2020. Oh, I've got all the receipts. I'm coming with bombs. So stick around. And my next big bomb is my next guest who wrote a book on how so much of the COVID-19 pandemic hysteria was all lies, and his book's being proven true. We'll talk to Dr. Brian Ardis next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Huge story of the day is this congressional report on COVID. Absolutely damning for the narrative that you were told, and the narrative that drove $6 trillion in deficit spending and lockdowns and got your church closed and got your favorite restaurant closed and just distorted all the election laws. All kinds of crazy stuff happened. It was all for lies. Every time there was some poor mom that was forcing a mask on a 2-year-old who didn't want it, and they were screaming their heads off, that was just child abuse. That was just performative theater, abuse of your child to keep the narrative going. And when I saw this report, there's a guy that's been on the show a couple times recently. Oh, I knew he would like to talk about this. Dr. Brian Ardis from the Dr. Ardis Show is back on the James Show. And you're the guy who wrote the book on how the whole COVID-19 response was a bunch of barrel of lies. And looks like you're exonerated 100% by this report. Your thoughts?
Well, actually, if you go to Amazon.com and type in the words COVID-19 Lies book, you will see we are one of the best sellers on Amazon right next to, right now, Melania Trump's bestseller on Amazon, and there is a reason. If you look up COVID-19 Lies book on Amazon, you'll see why it's a bestseller. Almost every single thing we were told about the COVID-19 pandemic was a lie, starting with a bat coughed in China and made the whole world sick, to you're better off going to a hospital and getting remdesivir versus other things you're hearing about from doctors around the world, like hydroxychloroquine, zinc, ivermectin, those kind of things, to then the only way to keep you and your loved ones safe is to get an unproven, unsafe, never FDA-approved ever COVID-19 mRNA vaccine.
So the thing that bothers me the most about this is Anthony Fauci. Not only has he not issued a public apology, this dude should be in jail.
Actually, he's probably, I would consider him actually the largest modern mass murderer of our time.
Well, see, I was thinking about that too, but Mao Zedong passes him and Stalin passes him. So, no, seriously, I was ranking them. He is kind of, and I'm not saying this to be hyperbolic, he's sort of in the Hitler territory in number of deaths that could be laid at his feet.
Yeah, you cannot ignore. It's not just COVID-19. Most people only know his name and his face in the last 5 years. Most people didn't know who he was until COVID launched.
No one knew who he was.
You have to go back to the 1980s because what was created by a false flag HIV epidemic and an AZT solution to that epidemic was all created under the guidance of Anthony Fauci. So this was just a replay 40 years later of the exact same scenario he created years ago. And I'm not joking. If you read the book and understand the lies perpetrated about COVID and its drug solutions, like remdesivir in hospitals, like the mRNA injections, they all have something in common with AZT. And I'm not joking, which was the drug touted by him to be the cure for all things HIV. Did you know that AZT, which is the drug proposed by Anthony Fauci to be the cure for all homosexuals and drug-sharing, needling men and women in America, spreading HIV, did you know that AZT is actually venom isolated from a marine sponge in the ocean?
No, what?
And when you that's serious. And when you read its description of its side effects, it is identical to all symptoms and signs of disease called AIDS. So as you took that poison, guess what you were going to have? Every known side effect of that venom. And yes, you can go look it up. It is actually extracted. The AZT is synthetic chemicals identical to the venom found in the marine sponge in the Caribbean Ocean. And it actually overlaps identical to what was in the COVID-19 mRNA vaccine.
All right, hang on.
People don't know that.
Now, Brian,
you got to know it.
Brian, do I need to go back and watch Dallas Buyers Club again? Because I'm picking up a lot of vibes from that movie. Did you ever see that?
Yes, and yes, you should go back and watch it.
Okay.
So just so you know, when you look at the deaths of COVID-19 worldwide, just think about it. Is it not amazing that America is only 4.5% of the whole world's population, and supposedly the whole world got COVID? Are you shocked to find out that America had more deaths by double than any other country in the whole world that had COVID?
Well, we counted everything from a car wreck to a slip and fall, as long as they could somehow put a test next to it. Do we even have the real numbers on how many people really died from this vaccine or died from this virus?
Actually, you do know the numbers for the age group 60 and older in America, because everyone who died after getting the COVID-19 mRNA shots, they published the documents in CMS.gov databases, and we have pulled those reports, and it's on my website. They actually have to tell you if a medical doctor wants to get paid by Medicare, if they got the vaccines and that patient died within 48 hours, they had to report that to CMS.gov legally. So we do have all of those numbers, and the majority, 90% of all people that died from COVID-19 who were seniors on Medicare died within 48 hours of the second Pfizer and Moderna shots. And we have those reports in my book and the link to it on my website.
Well, this also proves that Fauci lied to Congress on several occasions, denying the gain-of-function research, denying the funding of the lab in Wuhan, lying about the origins, lying about the evidence. That's one of the main reasons I think this guy should be in jail. And, aside from the millions of people that died from his dumb virus that leaked, the dude was doing illegal gain-of-function research in North Carolina. He got caught, so he teamed up with the Chinese communists. This all sounds like a terrible Oliver Stone movie, but it's true. To do this illegal research in a lab in Wuhan, as long as he shares his bioweapon secrets with the Communist Party of China, and then it leaked from there. And then we turn to the guy that caused the virus to save us from the virus. How dumb are we?
The Hegelian dialect is alive and well, buddy. Create the problem, provides us the solution. Anthony Fauci has been known to be guilty through his emails. Senator Paul out of Kentucky, we saw all of his ranting on CNN and other news outlets challenging Anthony Fauci about his direct emails discussing funds from the NIH being donated to something called Echo Health Alliance in New England, and then the money from there was to go to the Wuhan virology lab to to continue to fund their gain-of-function testing on coronaviruses.
Oh,
that
Brian.
is explicitly laid out in his emails.
I know you're a local guy, so just turn the radio on after you hang up the phone. I'm going to be playing some of that audio in the next segment. Tell them how to get your book.
You want to go to thedrardisshow.com, THEDRARDIS show.com, or go to Amazon and type in COVID-19 Lies book. It'll be the first one that comes up. Make it a Christmas gift and get a second copy for your medical doctor, because I show you all the medical tests, prescription medications, and natural antidotes to all 200 long COVID symptoms our government just published Americans will suffer from for the next 10 years.
Fantastic. Dr. Brian Ardis, thanks for your time again.
You're very welcome. God bless you all.
All right. And it's not fun to be right all the time, and it's not fun to be right about this. But I just remember how much people were sneering down their nose at me and telling me to wear a mask. I got kicked out of grocery stores. I wasn't allowed to go to bars and restaurants. I had to print up my own fake COVID vaccine card so I could just go from point A to point B, even around here. So now that we know COVID was all lies, what should we do now? Well, I'll tell you what I think, and I'll play you some receipts from Dr. Fauci lying through his teeth. It's now proven he was lying, and he knew he was lying at the time. You'll hear it next on The James Show. And if you got any hot sports opinions on this, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. The official congressional investigation into coronavirus and the response was released yesterday, and it turns out that in the entirety of the debate that was had on so many of the issues around it, this pretty much says that on all of them, I was right and they were wrong. You were right and the TV was wrong. For some reason, you and I were right, even though we don't do this for a living. And these doctors that were on TV and these academics and these experts and Dr. Fauci, America's leading virologist. Not only were they wrong, they knew they were wrong. They knew they were actively lying to you, and they continued to do it. It wasn't they were accidentally wrong, or they were just doing the best they had with the information they had at the time. No, we now know that 100% of this was lies. They knew it was lies when they said it. And to give you a couple good examples of really just how out of pocket this dude got, a couple of sound bites can take care of that for you. Number one, there's two great congressional hearings where Rand Paul goes up against Fauci. Now, in the first one, he throws all these things at him, and Fauci throws back garbage. But for the second time, when Rand Paul throws things back at him, he has answers even for the garbage, and Fauci gets stumped. However, we know that there was gain-of-function research. We know Fauci knew about it. We know it was called gain-of-function research when he started in North Carolina and got kicked out because it's so dangerous, it's illegal. So he went and did it with some Chinese scientists working for the Communist Party in a lab in Wuhan, and it was funded with your tax dollars. The COVID virus was man-made, funded with your tax dollars under the tutelage of Fauci, and we turn to this guy to save us from it? And then he's going to turn around and what, lie? Yeah. Here's one cut here. Just get a load of this now that we know it's a lie. This is from May of 2021, May 11th, 2021.
Dr. Fauci, do you still support funding of the NIH funding of the lab in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, with all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute.
Do they fund?
We know that's true now.
We do not fund.
Do you fund Dr. Barrett's gain-of-function research?
Dr. Barrett does not doing gain-of-function research, and if it is, it's according to the guidelines, and it is being conducted in North Carolina.
You don't think inserting a bat virus spike protein that he got from the Wuhan Institute into the SARS virus is gain of function?
That is
you would
not
be in the minority, because at least 200 scientists have signed a statement from the Cambridge Working Group saying that it is gain of function.
All right, so you and I got some of the information that Rand Paul got, and we're like, well, look at this. It looks like gain of function research. He comes out and he lies. We now know that Rand Paul was right and Fauci was wrong. It was Fauci. Rand Paul did know what he was talking about. Fauci was getting upset because Rand Paul's over the target. Here's another congressional hearing. This is just 2 months later when Rand Paul's loaded to shoot back at him. This is July 20th, 2021. Again, we know everything Fauci's saying here is a lie, and he knew it was a lie when he said it to Congress. Why is this guy not in prison?
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress,
That's
and
a lie.
I do not retract that statement. This paper that you were referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain.
Other liars?
As not being gain of function.
Can you stop lying?
Let me finish.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans.
Right.
You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about.
He does, frankly. Actually.
And I want to say that officially. You do not know what you are talking about.
See, he's getting butthurt because Rand Paul is right. Right now, and when this soundbite happened, it's 2021. So you got to think when Fauci heard about the coronavirus leak and he's like, oh my God, I'm going to be destroyed. I've been funding this thing. I've been doing this research that's so illegal. I had to move it and partner with the Chinese communists. And now my lab just created a virus and it leaked from this lab and millions of people are going to die. And we turned to him. We're like, what do we do? And he's like, well, I can save you from this virus. That's why I'm masking and have lockdowns. And so for an entire year, this guy's been a hero. This guy's like, oh, wow, I created one of the greatest tragedies in world history. And I'm seen as a hero if I could just keep this lie going. Well, he's worried about this lie falling apart. This whole myth that he's a hero. Rand Paul's coming at this balloon with a sewing needle and about to pop it. That's what he's worried about. That's where you hear the butthurt coming from. So everything that was once conspiracy theory, now conspiracy fact. Anthony Fauci was funding and overseeing the research in making bioweapons. When they use the term gain of function, that's a nice way of saying bioweapons. I'm taking this virus, I'm going to make it more powerful. Oh, you're creating a bioweapon. So he's teaming up with the Chinese communists to make bioweapons with your tax money. Some of it leaks out. Millions of people die. And then he lies to you about every aspect. And for what? Number one, to elevate himself as some sort of hero. But also to what end on the other side? To take away your rights, your First Amendment rights, your right to assembly, your right to go to church. They shut down schools. They ruined jobs. How many people lost their job? How many people lost their businesses? Every time you saw a mom struggling with a crying toddler to keep a mask on, it was just an acceptable level of child abuse to Fauci. And I don't know what I'm more amazed at is that this guy was able to pull this off for so long, or that almost the entirety of media and academia and the political class were just willing dupes. I don't think Jake Tapper knows any better. I don't think Rachel Maddow knows any better. But anybody that was duped by this, they should lose their job. Every journalist that lied to you or were misled about the virus origin, mass distancing, lockdowns, mandates, all should lose their jobs. You know who should keep their jobs and replace them? Those of us who got it right. Those of us who lost our job for standing up for the truth, for not getting a vaccine, for having principles. We should all be rewarded. So everyone should either be fired if you were a dupe, or if you were the guy that originated the lie, if you were the one that originated the mandate. Every governor, sheriff, police chief that enforced clearly unconstitutional violations of your First Amendment, they need to go to jail. All right, that's going to do it for the James Show. I wish I had more time, but if you need more James Show after this, go find the podcast, WBAP.com, WBAP app. I'm James Parker. This has been the James Show on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.